I thought this was a very appropriate project for Green Township because as you look around, you see Veterans Park, you see the tank. All of this is a reminder of a physical reminder of evil in the world. But on the other hand, it is a physical reminder of hope in the world. So I felt that this was a very, very good project to remind us to be ever diligent against evil and to be ever, ever hopeful.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Rocky Boyman, Chairman of the Green Township Board of Trustees. I want to welcome everyone this morning to the dedication of Green Township's September 11th, 2001 memorial. All right, it is about 8:46 a.m., the exact time when American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Green Township Police Chief Bart West, who will read the death toll from the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks on America.
The September 11th terrorist attacks on America resulted in the deaths of 2,977 people. In the two hijacked airplanes that struck the World Trade Center towers, 147 passengers and crew died. In New York City, 2,606 died in the towers and on the ground. This figure includes 343 firefighters, 23 New York police officers, and 37 Port Authority police officers. In Arlington, Virginia, 59 passengers and crew died on American Airlines Flight 77, and 125 people died inside the Pentagon. In Shanksville, Pennsylvania, 40 passengers and crew died on United Flight 93.
Will you pray with me? Father of the lost and hurting, the injured and misplaced, those who are dying and even the dead, we as your living ones remember and reflect on the shock of the loss that occurred on September 11th, 2001. Men and women, boys and girls of all races, religions, ages and places died together as the World Trade Center collapsed. The planes fell. The ground bore its scars. With faces streaked with tears, the music stopped, the sky grew quiet, and the cries heard. Today we again remember Ground Zero, the victims, each with a name, a family, a life, and their families who still bear the loss. We remember the first responders and the heroic deeds and their loss. We remember our own moments where our lives changed and still are changing because of 9/11. And we have come to know that remembering means reflecting. And in reflecting, we pray for peace, not war, for love, not hate, for patience, not impatience, for hope, for all that is what we seek. And so we dedicate this memorial. We ask your blessing upon it. A memorial not only of loss, but of rebuilding and hope. A memorial of steel and concrete, but one as well as blood, sweat, and tears. A memorial far from ground zero as miles go, but one close to our hearts. And so on this anniversary, we ask in your name for peace for all nations and within our own hearts, that this memorial may be a blessing for those who remember and dream of hopeful and promising days. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Right now, I'd like to offer a second moment of silence. 9:03 was the exact time when United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Thank you. I would now like to introduce State Senator Bill Seitz.
Thank you, Rocky. It is customary on September 11th for the last 12 years to commemorate with respect a day of horrible tragedy and deep and abiding mourning for the thousands of innocents who perished on that day at the hand of terrorists. And of course it is fitting that we honor their memory, and of course it is fitting that that image remains forever seared into our mind of the kinds of terrible things that people can do to us if we are not constantly vigilant. But I'd like to take a moment this morning to cast a little bit different light on 9/11 and 9/11 ceremonies, and try to remember the day, in addition to all the above, as a day of commemoration of many, many acts of self-sacrifice and heroism almost beyond imagination. And also to urge everyone to look past the tragedy of 9/11 and hope and pray for a better time to come, because I believe there truly is hope in the terrible images that still confront us today from that tragedy. I want to talk about two people whose names were not familiar to me and probably are not familiar to you until I saw a documentary this past weekend about them. Their names are Frank DeMartini and Pablo Ortiz. These were two workers in the North Trade Center building who were on the 85th floor when the first plane hit that North Tower at 8:46. And the plane hit at approximately the 93rd floor. And these folks were on the 85th floor. And for a few minutes, of course, they didn't know what happened, but obviously it became an ominous situation. There were 3 stairwells that led from the 85th floor down to the bottom of the World Trade Center. They immediately found that 2 of the 3 stairwells were completely out of service, and the 3rd substantially blocked. But Pablo Ortiz and Frank DeMartini worked diligently first to rescue all of the people on the 85th floor and send them down the one remaining working staircase. And instead of them joining their friends and colleagues, and indeed Mr. DeMartini's wife was with him that day, instead of joining his wife on the descent down, these 2 individuals, not first responders, not folks paid to take the heat, and I'm not denigrating first responders anyway, but these guys were just ordinary citizens. Instead of going down that steps with all their colleagues, they decided to go up and see who else they could rescue from trapped and burning conditions. So they actually made it up about 3 more floors. There was a door jammed on one of the upper floors, and no one could get out that one remaining door to the one remaining working staircase. And they were able to take crowbars and actually cut through the sheetrock in order to create a hole for people to exit. So all the folks on 86, and all the folks on 87, and all the folks on 88 owe their lives to Frank DeMartini and Pablo Ortiz. They realized after they got past the 88th floor there was nothing further they could do. They had by this time heard the rumbling that accompanied the falling of the South Tower. Though it was the second tower to be hit, it was the first tower that actually collapsed. So they began to make their way back down after all their friends and colleagues were well ahead of them. And they stopped on the 78th floor, which was sort of a collection area for all the elevators that serviced floors 79 and higher. And their last act was to open a trapped elevator door and let a fellow out who had been trapped there since the first plane had hit. So they released him, and they were never heard from again, because they were making their way down, of course, when the North Tower collapsed. Now, I relate this story to you because it's a story of what people are capable of doing in a crisis. And it's a story of how other people's example can inspire us to be better people. So many of the people on that documentary, remembering the contributions and selfless heroism of Pablo Ortiz and Frank DeMartini, said that Inspired by their example, they helped others on that long grind down the 85 flights of steps. They helped a lady who was badly burned because she had been caught in a burn flash in the elevator, and they accompanied that lady all the way down. They carried others down. They provided triage on the ground to folks that were panicked and rushing away from the center. They've dedicated their lives since that time to helping other people. So as we remember the terrible loss of 9/11, let's also remember the examples, of which I've given only two, of people whose sacrifice for their colleagues and their fellow Americans inspire others to be better Americans. And let's also remember 9/11 and try to put a glow or a glimmer of hope on the situation. You know, our troubles are not over. There is unrest in Syria and Egypt, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and the list goes on in that troubled part of the world. At the root of the problem over there, ladies and gentlemen, is a religious war. And no, it's not a religious war necessarily of the Muslims against the Christians. The fact of the matter is there's Shiite Muslims and Sunni Muslims. And it is their war that is causing most of the unrest over there. And about the only thing they can agree on is periodically to retaliate against Christians and Jews. But the underlying cause of the problem is war between two different sects of Islam. Is there ever going to be any hope that that situation will resolve itself? Well, we need look no further, ladies and gentlemen, than the United States of America. Hamilton County, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, and yes, right here in Green Township. Because if you study your history books, you'll remember that for about 300 years, Protestants and Catholics throughout the world and throughout Europe were engaged in just the same kind of religious war that we see over there in the Middle East today. People were burned at the stake and tortured, forced as exiles. There were endless atrocities committed in the name of one sect or the other of Christendom. But the example that this country set, the example that the people here in Hamilton County and Cincinnati and Green Township have set, means that all that is past us now. Yes, it took hundreds of years. But Protestants and Catholics, nobody thinks a second thing about it anymore. We are all one. We have become a model for tolerance and respect of one another, thanks to the Constitution and the freedoms that we all enjoy. So out of this terrible tragedy of 9/11, the 2,752 people, counting the airline passengers, who died in the World Trade Center tragedy, there is still hope. With our combined efforts, that we can bring to that part of the world the peace that we have developed and enjoyed here in this country in reconciling the various factions of Christendom together. Let us pray and hope that all the religions of the world can reconcile their differences and move our world forward. And with that, I thank you all very much. It's an honor to be with you today. We salute the memory of the fallen. We respect the sacrifice that they made. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Seitz. All right, I will now introduce State Representative Lou Terhar.
Thank you, Rocky. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The dignity of the day and the importance of this day, all of you carry in your hearts. When you ask someone of the greatest generation, where were you on December 7th when you heard of Pearl Harbor, they all know. When you ask those of my generation, where were you when President Kennedy was assassinated, we all know. And when you ask anyone today who was old enough to remember, where were you the morning of 9/11, they all know. Therefore, this day takes its place in history, and it is incredibly important that we do what we do today, and that is commemorate a range of people for the day. Certainly those who were lost in the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, the towers, and the brave folks on the flight that tried to take the flight back, the United flight that grounded itself, and Shanksville and all were lost. We also correctly should remember all the first responders who epitomize the American way of life. For those of you in the service, you may remember having to memorize the creed, "I am American fighting man. I will serve in the forces that guard our country and our way of life." What is our way of life? Our way of life, simply for me, is to have a place where I can exercise my liberty without infringing on someone else, where I can have a better life for my children and grandchildren than I had, and where I know others around me will adhere to the same set of principles that the Constitution sets out for all of us. The reason the first responders did what they did is because they believe in the American way of life. They knew they had a responsibility to society that they had taken on as part of their determination to be someone in the emergency services, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do regardless of the personal hazard to them. They are the people that we should emulate and teach our children to emulate, that once you have taken on a solemn responsibility, you always continue and follow through with that responsibility. I would also like to address one other piece that I think is critical. 9/11 marks something else. 9/11 marks the beginning of the War on Terror. We all remember all of those involved in the beginning of this. I would like to take you through a couple of things that also now affect that American way of life that are a result of 9/11 and the War on Terror. We lost a lot of people on 9/11. Since 9/11, we have lost 5,310 U.S. servicemen and women killed in action. Since that time, we have suffered 51,480 wounded in action in the War on Terror. And I will remind you that the death toll is lower than those of us who have experienced Vietnam and other things, only because of increased protection of body armor. Unfortunately, those who now show back as wounded and not killed, many of whom have lost limbs, have had extreme trauma, and are having great difficulty trying to cope with the life that's left to them. They're also the victims of 9/11. But they are also those who carry on the American way, who took a responsibility, answered a call, and do the job completely out of sight and out of mind of all of us, but carry on that American way of life and do what they need to do to protect your ability to live it. I would like to give you one other piece of information that I think is important, and that is this war is also very different in terms of who fights it. For those of you who have been up and down Bridgetown Road, you will see a sign that dedicates that highway as the Sergeant Kruder Memorial Highway. Sergeant Kruder was in the 25th Marines, Lima Company. That entire squad was killed together when a massive IED wiped them out in Iraq. Every one of those men were reserve Marines. This war is being fought in a major way by reservists and National Guardsmen. They are the ones who are next to you every day until they're called up, and then their kids find out dad is gone and they have no support because they don't live on a base like we used to. They go over, they do their duty, they come home, they come back to work. So I'd ask you to remember, whenever you see a reservist or guardsman, thank them. They are the people that are ensuring that your way of life and our way of life continues as it should. And finally, just so you have another piece of data, in today's armed forces, 48,162 Ohioans serve in the armed forces. We are still one of the major states providing servicemen and women to protect our way of life. And I'll leave you with one final thought, which also comes from my military background. And I believe this is something that we can all take to heart. It is, eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. Please maintain your vigilance and support those who protect you. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Terha. I'd now like to introduce Green Township Firefighter District Chief Edward Thomas. As a member of Ohio Task Force 1, a FEMA Urban Search and Rescue Team, responded to the New York City September 11, 2001 and assisted in the recovery efforts at Ground Zero.
Good morning. September 11th, 2001, for me started out just like any other day at work at my part-time job. And at about 11 o'clock, I got the page to respond to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. As a member of Ohio Task Force 1 Urban Search and Rescue Team, we were being deployed to either the World Trade Center or the Pentagon. Until I responded to the base, was unsure on where we were going to be sent, but Ohio Task Force 1 was given the duty to respond to the World Trade Center in New York. We, as a team, responded to the World Trade Center unassured of what we were going to find and what lied ahead of our team because of the inability to see the newsreels and to see the TV, because we were busy preparing to respond to the World Trade Center. Once we responded, we went straight into Manhattan and were housed at the Javits Convention Center and spent roughly the next 10 days working on either the West Liberty Street side of the World Trade Center or the Church Street side of the World Trade Center. It was my honor to be able to work alongside some of the bravest, dedicated individuals I've ever met, and those were the members of New York Fire Department and Police Department. They had an undying dedication to their task at hand. And by experiencing that, that became my task and our team's task. Whatever it took to assist New York Fire Department, New York Police Department to bring their friends and family home was our job. And also to try to bring home the innocent victims of that day. This memorial, to me and others, stands for more than just 9/11. That day, besides the roughly 3,000 individuals that died, as stated earlier, 343 of those were firefighters doing their job. Since 9/11, roughly 60 firefighters, first responders, have died and succumbed to illness from exposure to the World Trade Center. Since then, we also have sent men and women, fighting men and women from this country, to Afghanistan and Iraq to protect our freedom. Roughly 5,000 of them have gave the ultimate sacrifice, and thousands of them have come home wounded warriors. Every time we look at this steel, we need to remember the sacrifices that were made that day and that have been made since then, every day by servicemen and women, firefighters and police officers, to protect our freedom and our safety. So with that, I would like to just tell everybody that when they come to this memorial, to see more than just a piece of steel from the World Trade Center. To see it was both a tragic day in my life and also a proud day to be an American. I saw unbelievable bravery and sacrifice by men and women just like the men and women that are here today. And I would just say, God bless those that gave the sacrifice and those that continue to give the sacrifice. And remember that every one of those have families. Their brothers, their sisters, their mothers, their fathers. So they have to take into account that there's also a larger amount of people that have been affected by that day and the days since then. Keep their families in mind and keep them in mind, and God bless you.
Thank you, Chief Thomas. I'd now like to introduce Green Township Fire and EMS Chief Doug Witskin, who has some additional people to thank.
Thank you, Trustee Boyman, and good morning to all of you. I'd like to echo Trustee Boyman's thanks to all of you for attending this morning. It makes the ceremony even more special to have so many people sharing it with us. There are more individuals and organizations that I would like to thank for their role in making the steel donation and the memorial a possibility. This whole process started in 2009 when I was approached by Jim Alexander, a now retired employee from the Green Township Public Services Department. He had learned of a steel donation program from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and he approached me and put me in touch with Linda Tenenfeld. And I'd also like to echo Trustee Boyman's thanks to Linda. It's been 4 years since we started working on this project, and it's really rewarding for not only us but for everyone here to see it finally come to fruition and to have a memorial built, and it will stand for many years here in Green Township. The Green Township Trustees in 2009, when the project started, were David Lindenberg, Tracy Winkler, and Tony Upton. The current Board of Trustees, Rocky Boyman, Tony Rosiello, and David Lindenberg, have been unwavering in their support of the department and everyone that's been involved in bringing the steel here and to seeing the memorial through to completion. Green Township Administrator Kevin Solaric, from the time I first mentioned this idea to him, has been very supportive, and in recent months his energy has really helped push the memorial towards completion. I'd like to thank bagpiper Mike Gregorio, a Cincinnati firefighter and a former Green Township firefighter, for being here to add his talents to the dedication ceremony. Reverend Dr. Lee Strawn for taking time out of his schedule to join us from the Westwood United Methodist Church to offer the prayer and blessing earlier. Green Township Police Chief Bart West and his officers have been helpful at several stages of this project, especially the steel welcoming ceremony and the dedication today. The Green Township Department of Public Services, Director Joe Lamping, Ron Reckers, Rick Wieneman, Butch Nanny, Randy Ludwig, Mike Upton, John Shelton, and others have lent their many talents to the building and completion of the memorial. Many local businesses have also been a part of this project, either from donations to make this happen, to fund the trip to New York City, the welcoming ceremony, the dedication ceremony. Those are Scott Rand's Construction, Bill Spade, Electric Heating and Cooling, Brockman Signs, Deerfield Digital, Bridgetown Finer Meats, Gordon Food Service, Apex Awards, Dunkin' Donuts on North Bend Road, Kroger Dent, Twin Lanterns, and Walt Sweeney Ford. As you can see, this has truly been a community project, and please join me in thanking all those individuals and businesses that helped us. In 2001, a local artist named Holly Shapker created a painting entitled Angels of Liberty, which is based on the events of September 11th, 2001. In 2011, as word spread of Green Township acquiring a steel artifact from the World Trade Center, Holly generously donated a lithograph to Green Township to serve as a complement to our planned memorial. Now that the memorial is a reality, the lithograph will be placed on permanent display inside the foyer of the Green Township Administration Complex. This lithograph is visible next to me on the stage. And at this time, I would like to introduce Cincinnati-based artist and Green Township native, Holly Shapker.
Thank you, Chief Witskin, for inviting me to be here today. I'm humbled. I'm humbled to be here. I was asked to just say a couple of words about my painting, and just like everybody else, I was stunned on 9/11 as I watched TV that day, and I couldn't really concentrate on my work or anything, really. And about a week later, I saw an image of the Statue of Liberty standing tall with the smoke from the debris of the World Trade Towers behind her. And I got this vision of angels. I saw the angels who were escorting the firefighters and the policemen and all of the heroes that day into heaven. And that gave me consolation, and it was the only way I knew how to deal with this tragedy. And so I hung a canvas on my studio wall, which was about 7 feet tall, and I just started painting. And I painted for 3 months. And when it was finished and other people started to see the painting, I noticed their reaction was similar to mine with that perspective on this event, that I thought maybe this healing could be, it could be more widespread than just my own. If I would paint this painting today, I think I would have the dust settled, the sky would be cleared, and the heroes of that day would be prominent in the foreground. For me, and I believe all other Americans, what has grown from that horrible act is a respect and admiration for the first responders, like the men and women here today, who have sacrificed their lives and are ready to sacrifice their lives in service to others. So thank you, and God bless you.
And one final thank you goes out to Arlene Durger, a retired Green Township employee and former director of the Green Township Senior Center. She donated the beautiful framing work for the lithograph that Holly provided, and I just wanted to make one final thank you to her. And now I'll turn the program back over to Green Township trustee Rocky Boyman.
As chairman of the Green Township Board of Trustees, I, Rocky Boyman, welcome everyone today to this dedication of World Trade Center steel. We do this as a memorial to all Americans who were shaken by the tragedies of that day, but chiefly to honor all of the first responders in the fire and police departments throughout this great country, especially the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice. They will forever be remembered for their bravery. And the best way for all of us to pay tribute to them is to honor our own first responders here in Green Township and throughout the great state of Ohio. With this 9/11 memorial, we pay tribute to the valor that exists in our first responders. We thank you, and we pledge that this steel is a symbol of our courage as a community. All of this will pass one day, but the memories in this monument will remain as a testament to how on September 11th, 2001, terrorists and those who wished us harm tried to change America. And change they did, but not in the way they intended. Instead of breaking us, they did nothing but bring us closer together. And we as Americans showed, collectively, as one, that we will not run, we will not hide, and we will not be broken. Thank you for coming this morning. May God bless Green Township, and may God bless the United States of America. We encourage people to come, touch it, feel it, walk around it, and to me it just really serves as a reminder to people of what happened that day. Everyone knows where they were on 9/11, and now they can remember some of those thoughts and feelings, and really, to me, also be reminded of how proud they are to be Americans. And I'd like to introduce firefighter Mike Gregorio, who will play the bagpipes for us this morning. A few other thanks I'd like to give out to. First, to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for donating the steel artifact here to Green Township. Again, to Linda Tenenfeld for her tireless efforts to arrange for the steel donation and the transportation of the steel back to Green Township. Mr. Don Marr and the New York City Fire Riders for their logistical assistance in picking up the steel artifact. Mr. Rusty Wayne from Wayne Pole Buildings for donating the use of a truck and trailer to transport the steel back here to Green Township. Mr. Ryan Keller from Wayne Pole Buildings for driving the truck and trailer to and from New York City. Green Township Firefighters District Chief Ed Thomas, Lieutenant Russ Ruberg, and firefighter Dan Gallagher for making the trip to New York City and assisting in the pickup and transportation of the steel. Mac Fire Incorporated, Green Township Professional Firefighters Local 2927, Green Township Firefighters Association, and the SSG Hawkins Fund for donating the money to pay for the diesel fuel needed for the trucks during their drive from the New York City trip back here to Green Township. Also to Mr. Fred Coyle and the Bridgetown Welders for donating the welding work needed for the construction of a memorial. And finally to all of our workers in the Public Services Department, led by Joe Lambing and Randy Ludwig, for their efforts in helping create this monument.